Today we have all sorts of fun things on our agenda, including one of my favorite things, cake, which I know is one of your favorite things. We've been having lots of discussions about the cake. So we're actually going to get to taste some cake and look at some cake. And we're going to talk about linens. We have a little table set up where Craig was sitting, so you might have seen a little bit of it while he was talking. But we have a full table set up with linens and flatware and glassware and flowers and some napkin options and so forth. So we'll be talking about and looking about that too. And audience out there, if you want to pipe in and see, you know, which napkin do you like better, feel free. It's always fun to get other people's opinion. But I think just because I really, really like cake, let's start with cake. We've got Lucinda here. We have a mic for her.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Is that on?
I hope so.
Yeah, yes, mic is on. Okay, great. So Lucinda, otherwise known as the icing diva. Diva is always a good word. You guys have been talking a little bit about what Laura's looking for in a cake, flavors, the look and feel of the cake, and you brought us some samples. So I'd love to know a little bit more about what you brought us, and then we'll go into kind of the decorations on the cake after that. But let's talk a little bit about what you brought us here in these beautiful pink boxes.
One thing that Laura told me is that she likes cake and that she really enjoys lemons. So I did some different citrus ones and brought samples for everybody.
Can we see those? Okay.
And I'll take them out of the box. Putting your box in a cake is an art.
Ah.
So,
The appreciative awe of the cake.
So what I have is I have an orange cake with a chocolate ganache filling. Then I have a chocolate cake with a raspberry creamed filling. And then I have a white cake with a lemon curd filling. And then I have a lemon cake with, again, the chocolate ganache. And I've marked them with the various little fruits and flowers so that we can tell the difference. And I brought 2 boxes to make sure we had enough for everybody.
Fabulous.
And forks and napkins. So
Great.
this is where you just kind of dive in.
We're going to taste them right now?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, goodness.
Laura, you get to start. So just from hearing those flavors, which of those appeals to you the most, Laura?
White cake with lemon curd.
Okay, very good.
I like the simple flavors, but I love lemon.
Well, and that might be really refreshing on an August day if it
Yes.
ends up being a warm Seattle August day versus some of the cold August days we've had over the last few weeks. It would be nice and refreshing. Billy, what about you? What sounds?
I'm a chocolate guy, so I would probably go the lemon cake with chocolate.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good.
Have at it, Laura. Oh, are you attached? Okay. I will hold the cake. Oh, try not to drop the cake.
Yeah. Just going to go for it. Look at the frosting.
And then on
It's
top of the
sparkly.
cake, I've just put a standard buttercream that I make.
I'll take care of that.
This is good practice for the cake cutting ceremony. Maybe you guys should practice feeding each
you
other.
Want that?
No
I don't-
smashing of cake,
I don't
please.
think they want that on here.
No, he knows that there's a promise of an annulment.
Okay, but did everybody hear that? Promise of an annulment if there is cake smashing at the wedding. Excellent.
I'll go second. She's gonna feed me first.
So what goes into a buttercream? And can you tell us like the pros and cons between buttercream and fondant?
Well, fondant is just pretty much pure shortening with some gelatin and some other little things added to it, some gums. The advantage to fondant, of course, is that it's very stable. So if you're dealing with high temperatures, it's very stable.
And buttercream melts, right?
And buttercream is just like you know, it's full of butter that's been creamed, which is yummy and delicious and sweet and wonderful, except that it's not our most stable icing for a warm summer day.
Okay.
One of the things about fondant that I like and that a lot of people look for is, you know, you see those beautiful, perfect cakes in all the magazines, and those are almost always fondant, that really perfectly smooth. If you do
Whoa.
buttercream, you usually have still some sort of cake mark, correct? So the fondant
exact-
is that
You try all
really
of them?
smooth
Right.
look.
Exactly. The fondant is your satin finish that's perfection.
So one of the things I usually tell my brides, if they want that look, but they're a little bit afraid of that taste, of the fondant taste, I tell them to ask for the fondant on top and the buttercream underneath. Is that something that's done a
And
lot, or?
That's almost standard in the
Okay.
U.S. because as U.S. citizens, we really like our butter.
Okay,
Butter
so
frosting, please.
I've changed my mind.
Oh, excellent.
It's the orange with the chocolate.
Yes, see that would have
is
been
phenomenal. That's my favorite.
Okay.
It's very good.
The orange cake with the chocolate ganache is probably my number 3 seller. My number 1 seller is a chocolate cake with Bailey's filling.
Ooh.
And then the next one after that is a chocolate cake with the creamed raspberry, and then the orange with the chocolate ganache.
Laura, what was your favorites?
Lemon curd,
Lemon,
or
lemon.
white lemon curd.
Does she knew?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Now we've talked about, we had a picture that I think we might have looked at it last week, or we talked about it last week on air, that she wants a very plain cake, just very smooth, clean, with the accent on some beautiful sugar flowers, and you've brought some sugar flowers in.
I did. I brought some sugar flowers that I designed in gum paste. Gum paste is a confection. It is the same confection. It's made out of sugar and gum, obviously gum paste, but it's the same confection that your Altoids mints, your Nickel wafers, your little sweetheart candies at Valentine's, anything that's hard and sweet, that's pretty much a gum paste. The very awesome thing about gum paste is it can be worked with very, very thin. It looks like porcelain when it's dry, and I can color it and mold it just about any way you want. The other very cool thing about this is that if you keep these dry and dust free, you can literally keep them forever. So you might want to get yourself a little glass cake dome or something to put them in.
Cool.
And I designed these flowers to work with the flowers that are on Laura's dress. Ooh.
Groom sitting here.
Sorry.
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
I've designed them to fit with some flowers.
Can you tell me, what's the process of making something like this? It looks so incredibly delicate. It looks like it's a lot of work. I can see some wire work in there. So tell me what the process is. First you design the flower, what you want the flower to look like, and then what's the process of making them?
Well, and I literally have my gum paste that I make, and then I roll it out very thin. As you can see, they're paper thin. And then I have cutters, and I have what we call veiners that I would vein the petals once they're shaped.
So a wire goes into
and then I wire
it?
them so that I can shape them the way that so that they'll hold the shape. Because when you're working with the gum paste, it's like working with toothpaste, a little bit like working with a thick toothpaste.
Interesting.
So that does make them at this point not edible, even though it's made with a gum paste, which is edible once obviously the
Well,
wires.
you wouldn't be able to digest that wire very well, but
Right. But most people wouldn't take this off the cake and eat it, obviously. They're not going to nibble around the wire or anything
I
like
have
that.
had people take them off and eat them,
Really?
and I do my roses. I do without any wires at all.
Oh.
Now this particular flower was much more delicate and needed to have the wire in it, so these are all wired. But generally speaking, yeah, I try not to use too much wire because people do eat them.
And are these millinery stamens? Or are these also made out of sugar, the stamens
No,
of the flowers?
they're made just for cake decorating, so they're not sugar, but they are made for cake decorating, so they're a food grade item
Very
that
cool.
we purchase. I purchased those actually from Europe, out of the London area.
Very pretty.
Yep.
Beautiful. So then what's the process of, you said that you could color them if she wanted them a certain hue. So what's the process of that? Is that done before? This is obviously done after then.
It's done after they're dried, and generally you brush on the color. I use, again, a food grade colors. We have pearls. We have all kinds of different metallics and that sort of thing. They're all, again, all food grade. And we dust them on and then just kind of work it like an artist, so it looks either real natural or real wild and fun, whichever direction you want to go. So,
And we've talked about doing an ivory fondant.
yes.
And then she's brought her ribbon in. So
Ooh, beautiful.
I don't know if how much we've talked about color a little bit, that the colors are cobalt blue, ivory, and then copper. So this is the ribbon that
This
we
would
would
be
like on the
beautiful.
cake.
Yes.
So what would you suggest for the flowers that have you two talked about?
Just a little bit. I mean, I really wanted something kind of monochromatic until I found that ribbon, and then I thought, oh, well, this would be kind of nice to tier by tier have
Exactly.
just a little color. But so I didn't want to go overboard. I still want it to look very simple and sophisticated and
Well, and what I'm
sleek.
thinking, just looking at this ribbon here, is I'm thinking that, and because you'd said you wanted it fairly monochromatic, we can still pretty much do that, but I'm thinking we'll add just a touch of color down in the centers of these that matches with this
Okay.
with this color, and then it will tie that in, yet it will still be very monochromatic. I think it'll be very elegant.
Does that sound
Good.
good?
That's what I'm going for.
Fabulous. And so since we first talked, we've now gotten from having a cake to having a beautiful, lush dessert bar, which I think we're all really excited
Yes.
about. There's going to be chocolate, there's going to be cake, there's going to be all sorts of yummy stuff. So now we're talking about maybe having a few cakes.
Instead of
Oh.
one tall cake,
Mhm.
going with several,
A
and
few
maybe
smaller ones.
like tiering them with the table decor. So you
Mhm.
kind of lift one and
Mhm.
have one down.
So
and-
we'd make maybe some nice risers of different heights. And how do you feel about that?
I think it sounds beautiful, and I think
Yeah.
it'll be very elegant looking
Fabulous.
and very easy to serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you
Yes.
go.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming all the way down here. I mean, it sounds like we've made decisions on the flavors. Are we doing 2 flavors in the cake, or maybe one cake one flavor and one cake the other?
What do you
or-
want to do?
Well, I really love the white cake with the lemon curd. But it sounds like Billy kind of is leaning towards chocolate. So maybe we do one
One of each?
chocolate and then,
Do an orange with the chocolate?
yeah.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Then
Sounds
everybody
good to
gets
me.
to have their cake?
Yeah,
good to me.
I need it too.
Yeah.
I made a fabulous lemon curd this weekend, so
I'm
it'll be
excited.
good.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming in and showing, the beautiful decorations and how those are made, and bringing cake. I think we'll be enjoying cake a little
Yes.
bit later
thank
if you'll
you.
do those with us.
No problem.
And do you need more of that ribbon, or? can she take
I
that?
think, I'm going to take just one long piece so I have it to match
we have
to certain
scissors?
things. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Lucinda.
You're welcome.
I will take that from you. Cool.
I don't even know.
Delicate flowers. Like I want to carry the flowers.
You just cut it like right there. Okay.
Perfect. Well, I feel like that's another check mark, because we've been talking about this cake for quite some time.
Yes.
Because I know you're just a cake fanatic.
I am a cake person.
So, and I like cake too, but I only like good cake. I don't, that's one of those things. Cake has to be moist and yummy, and
Yes.
otherwise it's just, I'd rather pass. So I'm excited that we found the cake and that we have chosen flavors and the look of the cake, and that we're comfortable with that. So let's go on to you to the table. Are you ready to see your
Yes.
tabletop?
Yes, I am.
All right. So let's go over here, and I'm
Can
going to
I
bring
stand
Deidre out. Deidre from BBJ Linen is here, and she's been amazing in offering us their beautiful linens. Hi, Deidre.
Hi.
I'm going to give you this, and I'll come back over here. And so this is kind of a mock-up of what your table is going to look like. We had talked about, you've picked some colors that are very non-traditional flower colors, right? So we're not going to have cobalt blue flowers, we're not going to have copper flowers, but those are such yummy colors. So one of the ways we wanted to incorporate those was in texture and in the linens and the containers, and then keep the flowers a very neutral, beautiful, elegant cream. So what we've done here is done a cobalt blue linen, and then we have some choices of napkins. We also brought more choices of linens for you, so you can kind of have your pick. But overall, we've talked about having the long, skinny tables, and so I designed long, skinny arrangements. There'll be candles in between, but something that isn't going to get in the way of the guests, that the guests can easily see over.
Beautiful.
Okay.
It's stunning.
You like?
Yes.
Fabulous. Well, that's easy. I'll kind of tell you a little bit about these flowers. There's hydrangea, there's stock, there's roses. We've taken a few roses and peeled them back to make them look more like gardenias. We'll have some gardenias for the actual wedding itself, but we couldn't get them for today. And a few little orchids tucked in here and there. And then we've got the containers. Really hard to see because I went a little overboard with the flowers, but it is copper. So, that will, once the candles come in, the copper will really kind
Yes.
of get picked up and will shine.
I
So-
love a low arrangement because you're right. If you don't do it really high or
Really
really
low.
low, then conversationally it makes it very difficult. And since we
Yeah.
are doing family style and people are going to be passing food, and we really wanted that conversation part of everything.
And that
So-
thing's more frustrating than having to look around and trying to find, where's that other person's face? Oh, I'm just looking at this flower arrangement. Yes, it's pretty, but that's all I can see.
Yeah.
So we try not to do that. For your wedding, we'll probably do maybe 5 tall arrangements and have them like in the corners of the tables, where the tables meet, just to have that variety. It's nice to have a little bit of texture in the room in terms of flowers, so you don't just walk in and go, okay, every flower arrangement's the same. It's nice to have something different so the eye keeps wandering. But for the most part, where guests are being seated, it'll be nice and low, almost like a runner full of flowers and candles. It'll be absolutely lush and beautiful.
Awesome.
DJ, would you like to talk about the linens that are on the table and some of the other linens that you bought so
Sure.
that Laura can have fun picking?
Well, I've just noticed lately, as far as linen trends go, people are choosing more textures than just your basic polyester blend because they're fun, they're edgy. You don't necessarily have to have an overlay with them. You can, but it's just one more added expense. So this is the twist, which I love the twist.
Pretty.
It's really, really one of my favorites. It comes in a variety of colors.
The light really plays off of that
And
one.
it does. And
Lovely.
I mean, so this is the blue, but sometimes you can see like a black
it's like
in
a
it
midnight
too.
color.
This
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of the silk that you chose, didn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
It'll look really good with the Dupioni silk.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love this linen. Love it. And then we also have the L'Amour, and this is going to be our most versatile linen that we offer because it comes in every size. So it comes in banquet tables, rounds, sizing for cake tables, everything. So we also chose this one for you because you are having a special dining table. So you're going to have a combination of these two.
Lovely.
And then we have the copper pentuck, and this is another one that's really fun,
love
and
this one.
everyone loves pentuck.
Yes.
And it's again a textured material, so it's going to bring just that kind of added wow to
I
your
can see
events.
that being for an actual like table setting, being something that would be hard to set glasses and stuff on. I mean, is that something that you use more for like an accent table or a runner?
People
or?
use this for dining tables all the time.
Usually the
It's-
base of the
yeah.
of a glass is big enough, so the base
Oh,
of a
yeah.
glass will be
Yeah.
bigger than the actual
I
square.
see.
But that question comes up so many times. I've
Yeah.
had a lot of people ask that same
That's
question.
I
funny because
love
it really
the
does.
I
Yeah.
love the texture of that.
Then I also brought the shantung, and even though we're not using it in your wedding, it's a really fun new material for us that is very versatile. So on one side it looks like a raw silk, and then
Oh,
it's
pretty.
reversible into a satin finish.
I need a dress like that.
So you could do a room, half of it in here and half of it in here,
Nice.
and get that depth to it.
Wow.
So it's
Great
just
idea.
another really fun material to use.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I like the raw silk and the satin shine.
So what about price points? Like if we talk about these different linens, kind of what's the basic and then the medium and then the high end?
Well, all of these are pretty high end for you to make your day special. I didn't bring any of our
Basic
basic blends that would be similar to something that maybe a commercial linen company would provide. And the difference with us is that we do have the high-end linens, but we also have the linens that are going to go all the way to the ground. And with a lot of commercial linens, things that kind of
Stop
get
short.
included in your hotel banquet facilities, they're just going to come here. They're not going to go all the way to the ground and give you that really polished look.
And that's actually one of my pet peeves. There's nothing worse to me than walking in a room with halfway linens, and it's nice because usually the hotel or the caterers say, oh yeah, you get free white linens or free ivory linens. But yeah, they're usually the ones that come from the,
Right.
wherever, and they hit halfway, and so then you see those, scratched metal
Is
table
that
legs.
like is that a trend? Is that like the belly tee? Like we used to wear belly tees and now we're wearing tunics?
No,
I mean,
it's
what,
just
can
the
we, like, swap them
inexpensive
out?
option.
But what I mean, how does that change the cost that much? Just an extra.
It's just a commercial linen that restaurants, hotels use because it's so much cheaper than what we do, and they're going through it.
Right.
They might have 20 events in a day, and maybe they're going to have a wedding or two, but a lot of their events are corporate events
And they don't
where the
really-
people they
yeah.
don't really care or want to spend the money on it. It's weddings and really high end, maybe galas and stuff like that, where they're looking for that upscale look, and that's what we offer. So that's the difference.
So I think even if your budget is tight, I think the very least thing you should do in terms of the overall look at the table is at least get linens that go all the way to the floor and fit the table. It makes all the difference in the world. Even if it's just, a color that matches everything, a plain poly cotton, and then usually I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the next step up is something like a L'Amour or something that's just a solid
Right.
color that brings in that richness, and then you can also go one more step and bring in some texture.
Right. And we also offer runners. We have runners, actual runners, but we also have chair ties that people use as runners.
Right.
And they're only $2, and they can completely add that like splash of color to a table without having to get a more expensive overlay.
Correct.
So we can do that for them too.
Great.
And then a lot of things, one thing I do want to say about the linen, because I get this all the time. People try to come and match the linen to the room. And it's very important to know that it doesn't really matter what the room looks like, because once you get your table, all your settings, your flowers, and all the people in the room, the floor and everything is just going to kind of fade away.
Right.
So it's important to
I
know
agree
that.
with that. Yeah, there's, obviously a lot of the hotels will have very multi-pattern colored carpets because, they don't want the dirt to show. But sometimes I have had a lot of brides saying, well, the carpet's coral and, hunter green, so I guess those will be our wedding colors. Like, no.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what you really want and make that happen and work with what's there.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'd like to get accomplished today is to pick a napkin color. And I know we have two options, and I think we had worked on ivory because we thought it'd be nice and clean. But I asked you to bring a copper, and now that I see the copper, I'm in love with a copper. But I don't want to influence you, so I want you to put your 2
I
cents
like
in.
copper.
I do too. I love how it sets the plates apart in the place setting where you can really see it. And then we're going to have the menu on top of that. It's just going to be like really multi-dimensional and ties in the centerpiece, ties in the cake ribbon.
Yes, the cake ribbon. So maybe we'll see if we can make that happen still at this late date, 5 days before the wedding. But I think it makes a huge difference. It does. It brings in some dimension. It brings in that color. And it brings in the richness because the blue is kind of a cool tone. And even though I've made an effort with the flowers to do white and cream and kind of every shade between to bring the cool and the warm in, and the container is also that copper, but it's hard to see. I really think that this is going to add that warmth in kind of that brown sugar, color that we talked about. So we'll see if we can make that happen because I think that'll look really pretty.
Well, and then you're otherwise you're only going to have this in your room for copper.
Right.
So that's going to really make
Tie
it
everything in.
cohesive. So I think that'll look beautiful.
Yay! Do we have any questions, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we just have a couple questions here. Let me see. One thing that Hawaii K in the chat room wanted to know was, will all the flowers be shades of white? All of them?
Just about. I think for Laura's bouquet, are you okay with me talking about that? We've picked creams, a little hint of white, and going into kind of the taupey caramel colors. So there'll be a little bit more depth to her bouquet. But all the flowers on the tables, we've decided to keep, the darkest will be that cream because I don't dye flowers, so there will be no blue dyed roses or anything like that. And the flowers that do come in blue tones didn't really lend themselves to that more of elegant, lush, vintagey feel. They tend to be more very garden-y and rustic, and we weren't really going for that look. So.
Okay. And so Chrissy wants to know how many people are involved in making the entire wedding happen.
Oh gosh, I don't think I've taken a head count. Well, and this is a very different wedding because everything's happening so quickly, and there's a big production behind it with having the film crew there and everything. So it's a little bit different than your average wedding, but let's just pick one thing. I mean, flowers, for example. The flowers will arrive to us on a certain day, and it starts with, the flower truck arriving. We take all the boxes of flowers out. We have to strip every thorn and leaf off of every single rose and cut that rose and put it in water, watch it until it hydrates to the right point, and then put it in the cooler so that it, stays at the openness that we want it. So that's what we're, same thing with, the hydrangea. With every flower, it all gets processed in a certain way, and that's before we ever start designing with it. Then we design with it, then it gets packed in the truck, then it comes and gets delivered, it gets fluffed up once it gets on site. So there'll be 5 people just doing the flowers and touching that and dealing with that. Then there's the linens and there's the chandeliers that are getting hung. I mean, just from the decor standpoint, there's probably 10 people involved. So
there's 2 right here.
That's right. Free labor.
No, you're not allowed to do any labor on your wedding. So yeah, it's hard to answer that question because especially with a wedding like this where there's so much more going on behind the scenes and with Jasmine and having the workshop, all those things going on. But it's definitely always a lot more than it appears. It's not just a florist and a cake person and there's always, everyone has their crews behind the scenes.
Well, maybe can you do a quick rundown of the types of companies that you've talked to? Like,
Yes.
for instance, there's linens and there's cake. And
Yes, so obviously we just talked to Lucinda from the cake company. we'll just call her the icing diva, as
Icing
she likes to
diva.
be called. And we have Deidre that's bringing us all the wonderful linens. So, you know, those will come, get shipped to us. We'll bring them, we'll put them on the tables, we'll steam them all by hand to get all the creases and all that stuff out. And that makes a huge difference. Again, you know, there's nothing worse to me than, you know, having wrinkled linens on the tables. You've spent money and want this beautiful look, and it doesn't look beautiful if it's all wrinkled. So we take our time and bring, you know, about 3 staff in just to do that. We've got, the caterer will be bringing all our rentals. These rentals that you saw here on the table are all from Peterson's. They donated those to us today to make allow us to have a really pretty table. So thank you to Peterson's for doing that. The catering company, you want to talk a little bit about the caterer really quick?
Yeah, we have Russell from Russell Dean Wool Catering doing the food for our wedding, and they're keeping the menu a secret. We are not exactly sure what it's going to be, but I am told it by the person who did our menus for us that it sounds very good and very expensive.
They have a couple of restaurants in town, and I've been there, and they have really
Phenomenal
fabulous
food.
food. Yes.
Food is amazing. And so they'll have a big staff of their own to come and help set up and cook the food and do a lot of things
And
on site.
his approach to catering is not your traditional catering. He makes all of the food as if it's a plated dinner. So as if he's cooking for a restaurant. He really takes time and care into each plate that he's creating for the guests.
Okay, and also from Eternal Sunshine, we have the question, what's been the hardest part of putting together a wedding in 4 weeks?
And who should answer that? Anyone?
All of it?
Or all of us?
All of you,
Okay.
any of you?
I think on my end, just that time crunch of, you know, you put a call out to a vendor, and then it takes them a day to get back to you because they have to check with their suppliers. And so then by the time you get that buttoned down, you know, 3 days have passed. Well, usually 3 days is not a big deal, but when you have a 4-week period, 3 days is a huge deal. And so, you know, you try to be delicate with each vendor and say, you know, I really want to work with you, but I really need you to answer me right now. But you don't want to push it and make them, you know, not want to work with you. So it's that delicate balance of trying to get answers out of people and trying to get them to have that sense of urgency, you know, while still being polite and being really happy that they're helping out and that they're part of, you know, something like this. So I think just that time crunch and the communication back and forth and getting all that done in a timely manner. Because I think even at this late point, at 5 days before the wedding, you know, we still have a few little unanswered things. But for the most part, everything's done and chosen and picked and scheduled, which is a relief, at least on my end, probably on yours too.
Is there
No
anything else
idea.
that the internet can help out with?
More chandeliers would be wonderful. We're still, I mean, we have a good number, but the more the better. You know, we've had a few people put emails out to say that they had some, and, you know, we will take good care of them. We'll just borrow them and make them look pretty and then give them right back. So if anyone has any that they would like to lend us,
Any
they don't even have
particular
to work.
style?
I have been collecting like all kinds of different ones. I mean, our taste is very eclectic anyway, so we found some kind of like globy, like 70s ones, and then we have like the traditional classic crystal-y ones, and then just mostly they've just been gold or brass, I think, is the one thing that we're really looking for. And if they
Okay.
are, and we
So
can paint them,
that's
then we will.
For the number 4 week wedding at creativelive.com if you have any suggestions or chandeliers you'd like to loan us. All right. So there was a quick comment that I saw that I thought was a little funny. When we were talking about the tables and the family style tables and how they'll all be connected, Wes said that that's a lot of running for the photographer to get to the other side.
Well, but when that's a good point, and it's same thing for the staff that's putting the food down, and even the guests. And so what we do when we're designing the layout, whenever we're designing any layout for, you know, whether it's a wedding or a corporate event or any kind of gathering where there's a lot of people, you have to keep in mind the overall flow. You know, you don't want to have the guest tables right next to the bar because everyone's going to be at the bar, and etc. So same thing with the tables. We're not connecting all of them. There will be a few spaces. So we basically will have 2 L's and then a space and then 2 more L's with spaces in between, so that it makes it easy for the photographer. It makes it easy for the staff to come and bus tables. You know, if a guest needs to get up and, you know, go to the bar, that it's easy, that they don't have to really walk all the way around. So it's still that overall feeling of having a few really big tables. Most of them are connected, but there are spaces in between for layout and flow.
Okay, great. So Molly asks, do vendors tend to give more discounts to an event planner as opposed to directly to a bride and groom?
I think so. I mean, I think, you know, we're the repeat customers, you know, so we come back, you know, for a bride and groom, for the most part, will usually just be there once, unless, you know, they start planning their life events, you know, parties and so forth and other things with them. But for the most part, you know, as a vendor, we're there time and time again, and, you know, we're bringing them more and more business. And so that, you know, does give us a discount at certain places. Not all places do that, but do you want to talk about that a little bit, Deidre?
Yeah, we obviously offer.
Right. Oh, we need a mic.
Oh.
Sorry.
There you go.
Obviously, as a vendor, we offer people like Daniela the discount because she's going to come back again and again and again. However, sometimes we have people that come in, have huge events, maybe 500-person weddings, and then that gives them, because their order's so large, a little bit more flexibility in working on a discount with them if that were the case. But typically it just goes to other vendors.
Great. And there was another question here. Wait, hang on a second.
They're flying through so fast. I think someone needs to ask Billy a question.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. It was a
Yes.
question for Billy. So
Bring it on.
how involved does Billy feel in this whole wedding process? Have you had any chance to participate?
Absolutely, but I mean, I kind of feel like I'm the wizard behind the curtain a little bit, you know. No, I'm just kidding. But Laura obviously has taken on. I mean, she's a wedding photographer, and so she's seen a lot of things. She knows what she likes. She knows what she doesn't like, and she usually kind of uses me as a sounding board. You know, she'll come to me and ask my opinion on things or what I would prefer, and I kind of just go from there. But you know,
Does she listen to what you prefer?
She does. Yeah, she does. She's good. She's good.
We
about
have really
that.
similar taste too.
Yeah, we do. We're both pretty. We like classic, but at the same time, you're
Yes.
helping with weddings. So we like classic, but we are a little eclectic. So, but yeah, I mean, she's obviously done. The bulk of kind of planning and going there. But I think she's used me as a sounding board, and I just try and be there more as a support for her.
I'm trying to hold it together.
Yeah, seriously. 4 weeks is a lot, and I feel like she's kind of a busy bee anyways. So
Yes.
I've just kind of tried to be there as a support more for her than anything. So.
When I've talked to you, Laura, I've heard you say things like, well, let me check with Billy, or let's see what Billy thinks about that. So I feel like even though I've been doing most of the discussions with you, that he's been there, his presence has been there, and his tastes, and things that he likes have definitely been involved.
Well, I have a question for you, Laura. We've talked before about how being a bride will affect your experience as being a wedding photographer. But how about the other way around? Has your experience as a wedding photographer affected any of your choices or selections as being a bride?
Yes. In the very beginning, when we got engaged, it was really hard for me to, still, it's hard to make decisions about things because you see so many wonderful ideas at all of these weddings and all of the wedding blogs that you read. And so our wedding was destined to be a hot mess. It was like some of this and some of this and some of that and so it was really hard to kind of hone in on exactly what we wanted the theme and the feeling and the style of our own wedding to be. So we like a lot of different things that we've seen.
We see that a lot these days. I mean, I have brides that they bring me tear sheets from magazines, things that they've marked in a book. Now I saw this on a blog. I mean, we're getting information and style ideas from so many different avenues, and today's bride is really bombarded with different images and concepts and things that they like, and it's really hard for them not only to pick what they like, but sometimes they really like you said, different things. And so our job as a designer is to try to really figure out, okay, you have two images, they're completely different, but what's the commonality? What do you like about them? Or are they different and we can meld them together, or we can we can play with something like something modern with something vintage, but make it feel like it belongs together, or realize what those two images have in common is lots of texture. Even though the style is very different, they both have a lot of texture, and that's what they're responding to. So when we have all these different images, that's one of the things that we do, is try to figure out, well, what is it what appeals to you? And sometimes the bride or groom might not be able to say what it is in that image that appeals to them. It's our job to kind of figure that out. And I feel like with you two, everything that you showed me, you like things clean, not to the modern point, but clean, but eclectic, a little vintagey, but not overly shabby chic. All that kind of combination, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully.
We'll see on Friday.
I know. Oh, surprise!
So in looking at the space that we have to work in, have you come to any decisions of your own about where you were thinking about some of the photographs that you'd like to have taken?
Well, that was a question, I guess, more for creativeLIVE, because I emailed Jasmine and I said, do you know what we're doing? I don't really know what our limitations are as far as the broadcast goes, like how far can we get from the internet connection and all of that stuff. So that's a good question for you guys.
Okay.
Where can we go?
Yeah. Well, we can bring Celeste on to answer that question.
Yay, the behind the scenes.
Don't get too close now. So we've got a release from this from Fremont to go around the canal area. You know, we're right by the water. So you know, we don't want to limit your pictures because our cameras can't go that far. So we might just bring a camera out roaming with you guys and edit it in later. But there's actually a lot of really neat stuff to photograph along the outside of Theo. They slapped my hand when I pronounced it wrong, and I can't remember which one it was. So because the building itself is just awesome.
Yeah,
it's just like this old brick, and there's lots of grass and neat plants all around there. So and I imagine we can run cord out around the building, but you'll be going down around the canal as well.
And I'm going to kind of default to Jasmine on that. I know she's coming into town early to do some location scouting. So whatever appeals to her, I'm just going to let her run with it because it's her vision.
Yeah. And she may very well come and be like, nope, we're doing it all here. And we're
Yeah.
like, okay. So she's good to roll with the punches, it sounds like. So we'll find out.
Woohoo.
All right. Thank you, Celeste. All right, so one last point here. We apparently still need some volunteers. We could use some help for Friday and Friday late, that is. You have to stay up late to help us with this one. And on Monday, on the 30th. So again, that's the number 4 week wedding at creativelive.com.
And what's really fun about that, I mean, is you're going to get to see this really raw space, and you're going to get to see it come together. So for those of you who get to see these pretty images online on blogs or whatever, you know, here's your chance to come and be part of creating and producing an event like this. So seeing the raw space, which by itself is cool, but not necessarily like, wow, breathtaking pretty, and we're going to take it there. So this is your chance to come and be part of that and see all the little things, you know, that make that happen, that go into making an event. And there's lots of little details that go into doing that. So if you want to see what that's like, this would be a great chance to do that. And so I think, you know, Wednesday and Friday night, we're going to flip the space, which is a whole different experience. Also really, really cool and different, especially at 12. We'll provide some coffee, right, Sarah? Lots of coffee.
Sure.
And then Monday for taking some of that down. So.
Right. And what do you mean volunteers? Photogs, rather, is somebody, that's what Karina is asking. And you can be a photographer and help us out, but it's not really photography work.
No.
And we'll see if we can do something nice for you. But so I do have another question based on the upcoming weather report. Doesn't look like it's going to be fabulous weather. It may not be the most beautiful weather. Do you have any... In Seattle.
Honestly, I mean, usually we're pretty prepared here in Seattle for anything. The weather, I mean, even in August isn't always sunny. And this August specifically has been very rainy and very, you know, even though everyone thinks it always rains in Seattle. In August it usually doesn't, but this August it has. But but you know what? I don't think it's going to pour, and even if it does, we'll make that beautiful and romantic.
I have on-set hair and makeup. I'm good to go.
Exactly.
I saw these really beautiful pictures from a wedding in Costa Rica where it just poured down rain during the ceremony, and they were outside, and they were kind of steamy. I was like, ooh.
See,
if it rains, whatever.
So we again roll with the punches, make it work. And overcast, and you can talk to this a little bit more. Overcast weather actually makes for much more beautiful pictures than really, really bright sunshine.
I think it depends on the photographer. I prefer to shoot with sun, but that's just because I know how to use it. It just depends on. But the overcast sky is nature's natural softbox. Yes. That's what they like to say. But yeah, it does make it easier, and you can get into more spaces that you wouldn't necessarily be able to use if it's bright and sunny outside. So.
And we probably don't want it to be 95 anyway.
Yeah, no.
Too hot. Plus, you want to see like
Bridezilla,
ripping off all my clothes.
and that's a whole different production.
I don't do heat. That's why I live in Seattle.
So if anyone has any fabulous umbrellas that,
Yes,
that
there
might
are.
look good in photographs.
I think we can give Bella Umbrella a call probably.
Yeah, Bella Umbrella
Ah.
here in town. That's what she does. She's has amazing vintage umbrellas from all over the world that she collects and rents out. And so that would be something fantastic to maybe have on hand. Jodelle,
Lovely.
give us a call.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, I think we're, unless you have anything else to bring up.
Oh, I do want
Folks.
to show my invitation.
Oh, yes.
Out last week.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of hands
That's
went into creating. Can I put these?
Piccola,
I have enough
Piccola
reach
Press.
here. Yeah. So a lot of hands went into creating these, but the artwork here and here is original hand-drawn artwork by my friend Olivia, who is a textile designer. So she drew these for us, and her company's called OAFI, Original Artwork for the Fashion Industry. And the typography was done by Command Shift Design here in Seattle, and she does amazing work. And then they were letterpressed by
Piccola Press.
Piccola Press.
Yes.
So
And
tell
then
me more about the topography. How is that? What's that process? Do they actually create the topography themselves, just custom for you, or?
It depends on how much time you have. A lot of times, if you're going to the extent of having your invitations letterpressed, then you go through the process with your graphic designer of creating a brand for your wedding.
Correct.
We didn't really have time to do that. I just knew the type of invite that I wanted, what I wanted it to look like, and then I kind of described to the designer, like, this is what the decor looks like, these are the colors, we want it to be a mixture of classic and vintage and modern. So she mixed sort of the antique font, which I think is going to look perfect with our gold Chiavari chairs where it says Laura and William.
Yes.
And then she mixed that with a more modern font that our names are in below that. So it has sort of that classic, eclectic. And then the artwork too, I think, really helps tie it all together. So.
It's absolutely beautiful. It came together. It's just stunningly,
And
especially in
super
that.
quick.
It's amazing.
It was like a matter of a week.
And those of you out there don't expect that. That
No,
doesn't
that
usually
does not usually happen.
All the letterpress and invitation designers are going to say that doesn't really happen. So
Yeah, no,
this was definitely a special case.
Yes, and I think it's just they just turned out so beautifully. I couldn't have asked for more.